For those who don't know me, I am Sandira Belia. I was born in France. I live in Portugal for 15 years, and I have been working with honeybees since I'm in Portugal, knowing that my mother was a beekeeper. So I was born in the field of the bees, but I never considered myself as a beekeeper because I was never attracted to actually produce honey and sell honey. So my relationship, my journey with the bees was one of connection, creating bridges between humans and bees. And the bees has been an incredible ally in my life, also throughout a very, very deep healing journey where I was with the condition of fibromyalgia for many years. And I don't know if I would be here today without the bees, to be honest. So they were a big, big healing force for me and an inspiration that also gave birth to my book, which is called Bee Wisdom: Teachings from the Hive, which came back in English in 2021. I have here today also some of my colleagues from the Bee Wisdom Network, Annelieke and Ulrike. So we have created this network where we offer all sorts of activities that are either directly in contact with the honeybees or online. And I'm also having my whole business on awakening intuition. So this workshop is really overlapping my whole bee world and my intuition awakening world. So the honeybee is a magical being. The first thing I would like to say is that one honeybee is a cell of a wide, vaster organism, which is the colony. The colony is the individual. The bees is not really an individual. It's like a cell, a subpart of this superorganism. And one of the specificity of this superorganism is that because its cells are not physically stuck to each other, it's very elastic. So the honeybees can fly away from their nest and somehow extend the size of their being. So I like to say that the honeybee is one of the biggest being on earth, because if you imagine the size, the physical size of a honeybee colony when you have foragers about like up to several kilometers away from the nest, well, it makes the beehive, the bee colony, much bigger than a whale, isn't it? It's an elastic, very vast being, which keeps its coherence, its integrity, its unity, even when it's in an expansive phase. And there are many specificities to the honeybees. One of them is that although the bee as an insect is a cold-blooded being, like every insect, inside the nest, it is warm. So somehow it is quite unique. For example, an ant nest is not warm, but a honeybee nest is warm. So the little babies, the little larvae, they need a temperature that is above 34 degrees to be able to develop and grow into adult bees. So the bees are constantly creating this warmth. And somehow I feel that this warmth inside the nest create a connection with the human beings, because somehow, in some places, the temperature of the nest is similar to our blood temperature, 37 degrees. So I'm going to share, communicating with the honeybees. So this superorganism is a very, very complex being in terms of communication. It has many layers, many levels of communication. So the first level is physiological. So we are going to go through all the levels of communication. And the first one is how the bees do communicate within the nest. The second one is cognitive. So how do honeybees communicate new information between themselves? The third one is collective. So some of you might know that the swarm, for example, when it's flying in a very coherent way. And this is thanks to collective communication. We will see it in detail. The fourth one is the devic communication. So what I call the deva of the bees is the collective intelligence that interconnects all the honeybees that are living today and that have ever lived on Earth, the deva of the bees. So there is a devic communication within this entity, this body. And the last one is the interspecies communication. This will be how do we as humans communicate with honeybees? And there we will explore the key principles of communication, and I will guide you through a little journey where you will be able to experience some of it. All right, let's start with the physiological communication within the nest. So, starting with touch. So within the nest, the honeybees are in constant contact with each other. They're constantly rubbing, touching, licking, and flickering their little antenna, which is one of the essential communication agent, the touch. So imagine, maybe just for a moment, close your eyes and imagine yourself inside a bee nest. You are a little bee and you are in constant touch with your sisters. Touching, touching, touching. In our world where the touch needs are often not met, how does it feel to communicate first with touch? Feel the bond, the cohesiveness that is created within the hive. All animals who create bonds between themselves constantly touch each other, like chimpanzee, like cats. The touch is essential for the bond. The next physiological communication essential aspect is the sound. So you are in the beehive and there's this constant buzzing holding you in the field of vibration. So the sound of the bees is created by the muscle, the wing muscles that they vibrate. And there are many, many different types of sound. It's a whole language. First, depending on which bee is buzzing, the sound will be different between the female bees and the male bees. The sound will be much lower with the male bees. They have bigger, stronger wings. But then there will also be varieties of sounds depending if the bees are singing lullabies to their baby larvae, or if they are like expressing a sense of abundance and joy, or if they are fanning to make the air circulate. Or they can also express a sense of weakness. For example, if one that has the bee ear awaken can feel when hearing the buzzing of a hive, if the hive is feeling healthy. Even if the hive has a queen or not, the sound will be different. The third physiological essential communication agent is smell. And here we are speaking of course, all the different smells within the beehive that are circulating, like beeswax, propolis, honey, pollen. Venom also has a smell. All these have different essential oils and different components. And we also have the pheromones. The pheromones are key for the health of the beehive, and they will also give information. For example, a nasal pheromone is a pheromone that the message is gather, come here. It's a gathering pheromone. There is also the royal pheromone, which is created by the queen. And this pheromone, again, is circulated through the hive air and as well through the touch. And it's so strong that every bee is carrying a bit of the royal pheromones. And imagine if, for example, something was to happen for the queen. Let's say she has an accident very suddenly. Then suddenly she stops producing the pheromone. Because of how organized the hive is, within 20 minutes, the whole colony will know that the queen has died. And immediately they will organize themselves to replace it. So quite magical, right? Okay, let's go to our cognitive communication. So here I'll take the example of the waggle dance. What is the waggle dance? The waggle dance is the communication method that the scouts and foragers use to communicate the position of a resource. It could be a nectar resource, it could be water resource, pollen resource, or even, in the case of a swarm, the resource of a potential new home. And they need to indicate exactly its location. So this is a very, very clever system. So you might see on the screen this lemniscate shape that I traced. So the scout bee will start in the middle at the bottom, and you might also look at my finger, will waggle in the center straight part of the figure, and then turn to the right, come back. Again, walk, waggle, then turn to the left, walk back. And this again and again and again, creating this shape of the lemniscate, which is also the 2D shape of a torus. You see in the background of this picture, the torus is this donut shape, which is the shape of every magnetic field on Earth. And by, of course, great magic, the bee is using this exact shape to communicate. So just to say, there is an exception to the dance of the bees. In case the resource of nectar is less than 50 or 100 meters of the hive, depending on the geography, if it's under this distance, then the dance will be circular. So there is another dance for short distance. Now we are for communicating coordinates of a location that is much further, sometimes several kilometers away. So have your ears open, because this is quite fascinating and complex. Because, of course, on the landscape, the landscape is flat, or relatively flat, okay? But in the beehive, the landscape of the beehive is made of vertical combs. Inside the beehive, we have vertical combs. So how to translate a coordinate from a horizontal plane to a vertical plane? That's quite something. It's quite conceptual. For this, the bees have created a convention that the direction of the sun inside of the beehive is always up. So it is a convention. It is a landmark that makes that then from there, they can explain the direction and the distance. So up on the wax comb means direction of the sun, opposite of gravity. Gravity down, opposite of gravity, direction of the sun. And then they will calculate the angle, the actual angle between the sun and the source of nectar, for example, outside, and translate it within the hive on the comb. This happens on special areas on the bee comb that we call the ballroom, where they dance, specific areas on the bee comb where bees are dancing. So let me share my next slide. Here, for example, we have a honeybee, let's say a scout, has found a source of nectar. And outside the hive, this source of nectar, let's say lavender flowers, are 70 degrees away from the sun. Come back inside of the hive, it's all dark. There's no way to show it the sense of sight. It has to be via vibration. So the bee scout will dance. The central axis of the lemniscate, of the waggle dance, will be 70 degrees away from the direction that is up, that represents the sun. And all the bees who are interested to get the coordinates will be around her, and they will be perceiving this information via the vibration that is circulating through the hexagonal lattice of the wax comb. Isn't this amazing? So the wax comb is created of millions of tiny hexagons, and this specific structure is perfect to transmit information by vibration. So all the little honeybees who are reading the message, they will read it mostly via their legs and antennas, because the antennas will touch the bee who is dancing, and they will be able to understand the direction of the source of nectar, the lavender. Now imagine the source of nectar is a bit further away. Then the central axis of the waggle dance is longer. For example, the lavender was only at 400 meters. It's a certain length, let's say 1 centimeter. If another source of nectar is further away, it might be 2 centimeters, equivalent to a kilometer, for example. Now, we have seen the direction. But now the sun is always moving in the sky, isn't it? So imagine now that the direction of the lavender was 70 degrees from the sun at noon. Well, 2 hours later, it might be only 38 degrees. So the same source of nectar will have a different dance. The scouts will adapt the angle, although within the hive, the sun is always up. I hope it makes sense. It's just so complex. When you click, it's just like, wow. All right. We have seen now the direction. We have seen the distance. What about the quality of the source of nectar? So imagine now that we have 400 meters away, okay, a few flowers that are quite nice. The scout will waggle, whoop, 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 few flowers that are nice. Now imagine in that direction, a kilometers away, there's a whole patch of juicy, ripe flowers of, let's say, sunflowers. Ooh, there the scout is going to waggle much more enthusiastically. Waggle, 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 waggle. She's gonna move her tail really strongly to express her enthusiasm towards the quality of the source of nectar. And this can be applied to the quality of a potential home to move in, or a source of water, of pollen, or propolis even. Okay, let's move to the next level of communication. We have now the collective communication. Swarm intelligence. The swarm is the baby of the mother colony. She's splitting. A part of her bees are leaving when it's the first swarm of the season. It contains the old queen. All these bees together in the sky must move in a coordinated, coherent way. And what I believe is that it is not any particular honeybee who is leading. It is the field, what I call the hive being, who is leading the way. And here, of course, we have a split between the mother hive and the baby colony, the swarm. So somehow there will be a split between the hive being. Will be the incarnation of a new hive being within the swarm. So the swarm comes out, pouring out like water from the mother hive. And then it's quite a magical moment to be able to witness this. It takes some time for the bees to recohere just after leaving. They're flying, 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 but no two bees will bump in each other. There's incredible collective intelligence in the swarm. And then suddenly, shoo, the swarm knows where to go. And it will go and settle usually on, for example, the lower branch of a tree. This will be a cluster, a place outdoor where they will wait until the final choice is done to where to move in, the swarm cluster. Now, on the second picture, so the first picture on this slide is a painting I made of the swarm, the winged serpent, I called it. And now the one that is lower, the picture is lower, is a picture of a murmuration of starlings. You can see a similarity there, right? When starlings are dancing in the sky, all turning exactly at the same time to create these amazing shapes. If you have never seen a starling murmuration, type it on the internet. You will see amazing videos. And there is something similar and different in honeybees when they are flying as a swarm through the sky. Okay, I'm going to move to the next level of communication. Let me check the time. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So the Devic communication is now the wider level. We are beyond the colony. We are beyond this one beehive level. What I call the Deva of the bees is the collective intelligence that is the ensemble of all bee colonies that exist in the present, in the past, and even maybe the future on Earth. And knowing that honeybees have a history of several millions of years. So the Devic communication is this communication between the Deva of the bees and the hive being. Hive being, we are at the level of the bee colony. Deva of the bees, all the bee colonies and their memories. So here on the picture, you see a honeybees with her own auric field. It's a torus, again, the same shape. That is the shape of every energy field of every cell, every suborganism, organism, superorganism on Earth. So now the hive being is the energetic field with all the memories of all the bees of one colony. And the next level is the deva of the bees that contains all colonies, living or past. Voila. When we communicate with the bees, there are actually two levels that we can choose to communicate with. So as we have seen before, we can communicate with the hive being, so one specific colony with her specific personality, her specific history, her specific genetic memory bank, or we can choose to communicate with the deva of the bees, so the collective intelligence. Knowing that sometimes it can intermingle. So in my experience, when I had downloaded my book and I started to communicate more with specific colonies, specific hive beings, and more I was getting, I wanted answers to vaster and vaster questions. And there, somehow, the bee colonies, the hive beings, acted as coordinates for me to access the deva of the bees. Yeah, like if they were a point on a map that made it easier for my intuition, my channeling abilities to create that thread of light towards the deva of the bees. So we are going to see the key principles of communicating with honeybees. Well, the first one is the one I started to speak about already, the level. So who are you willing to communicate to, a specific beehive colony or the deva of the bees, the collective? The next key principles is about questions. So I will take some time to speak about questions, how to choose your questions, what are the questions that tend to be more successful. And we will go through a little journey with questions. The next key principle is love and reverence. So in order to communicate with the honeybees, you will need to have your heart open and find this place of reverence. Find this place of awe towards the magic, the vastness of this intelligence. From this place, your communication channel will automatically start to open. Now, what I call the lumen silta. So lumen silta, if I cut it in two, lumen, light, silta, bridge of light. This is the bridge of light that I create from my own being. You can choose your own heart, your own third eye, or your whole being. And I create a bridge of light towards either the colony or the global collective intelligence, the deva of the bees. Lumen silta. We will experience it in the next exercise. Now, blessing. So some people like to ask for permission. I tend to ask for blessing. It's slightly different. I ask for blessing to enter communication with this being. And this is especially important when you want to enter a communication with a specific bee colony, because this colony has its own personality, character, history. Maybe something happened that made that she's not available. So you want to check, are you available now for a communication? And sensing, is it a yes, a sense of opening, or is it a no, now it's not the right moment. I'm dealing with something else. So asking for a blessing. Gratitude. Once if you get your blessing answered positively, then you give a sense of gratitude. Gratitude is again a big opener for animal communication. Essential. Find this place that really thank them for their being, for who they are, for what they give, and for the space that is opening. And the last principle is playfulness. So I have observed that with my clients, sometimes I have seen people who would like to enter in communication with the bees in a very serious way, like asking questions that are serious, that are deep, that are painful. Why not? I would not recommend to start with these, but you can enter deep, painful, like questions that include harshness and sense and feeling of pain, and still find this place of playfulness, lightness in the connection. Now, about questions. My first recommendation is be like a bee. So let's try to not ask questions which are too human. So let's go further. Further is just simply no should. So no should and no good and bad. So the bees are not judging. We are beyond good and bad here. And of course, when you have bee colonies and you would like to do the best for them, we often are tempted to add, is this good? Is this bad? Should I do this? I would really recommend to take this off vocabulary of questions in your communication. For example, let's take an example. Let's say someone is questioning about using white sugar to feed the bees. And they want to ask the bees, should I feed you with white sugar? I would suggest that you replace this question with, how does it feel? How would it feel if you would be fed with white sugar? And then try to become the bee and feel, how does it feel? Knowing that I take now one question, which is a deep one, because there can be many reasons to feed a colony with white sugar. They can be a very intensive, productive reason. Many intensive beekeepers take a lot of honey, and then in order to help the bee to survive the winter, they give it white sugar, which is not at all like honey. So this is one situation. So you can ask the bee diva, how does it feel in that situation? But it can also be that no honey has been taken out of this hive and the hive is weak and someone wants to help the hive survive the winter. So then this person can ask, how would it feel to be fed if you would be fed with white sugar or with brown sugar or with sugar that has been already open with enzymes. So there are many different ways. So try then to be precise. If it's about a practice, try to be precise about specific situation and specific details. Okay, let's go. I would anyway recommend to start with wider questions. So let's continue about questions. I suggest using open questions, meaning not questions that where the answer is yes or no. Let's take another example of a question. For example, someone is wondering about moving a beehive to another spot. Instead of asking the question, should I move you to this new spot? That's a closed question. The answer is yes or no. Replace this question with, how would it feel if I would move you to this new spot? And then become the bee. Take your time, feel your colony being moved to this spot, and feel the answer. How does it feel? Or even, could you show me another spot that would be better for you, that you would like to be moved to? Become the bee and see, observe, feel, depending on your intuitive language, hear, sense where would be a nice spot for the bee colony to be moved to. You see the subtlety of differences? Okay, many languages. So we all have different languages of intuition. Some people receive information more in a visual way, some more as an auditive, a voice type of message. Some it's more somatic. They feel the answer. They feel the response. And for some, it might be even like a smell or a taste. And for some, it might be like a download, like a direct knowing. All these languages can be explored. I do go through them when I work with my clients because they're really unique and they can be combined. And it can be very useful to know which one are your primary, secondary languages and how to develop the ones that are less fluent, for example, because we all can develop all of them. And we usually have languages that are more fluent naturally. Okay. Focus on one question. So choose one question to start with and stay with it. One common mistake in communication with animals, bees, nature being is to have too many questions. Of course, we're so curious. Choose one to start with and one that has those characteristics. And the last thing is around balance of tension. So imagine this is the path of communication between me on one side and the bee colony. Let's say you choose to speak with one bee colony. So we want this path to have a balance of tension. If you are wanting too much, searching too strongly to receive that answer, then this path will become really tense, and then the information will have hard time to circulate. This is, I call it the distorted masculine, when we want to force things to happen. And the opposite is the distorted feminine. If there's not enough tension, I'm not holding space enough for the communication to happen, I'm doubting myself, I'm second guessing, but maybe I'm not sure, maybe it's my imagination, blah, 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 blah. The chat box is on, then the information can't circulate easily. It will be lost in the way. So what we want to find is a pathway that has a balance of tension between your inner masculine and your inner feminine. Those both, you are at the same time holding the space without pressure, without forcing. And at the same time, you're still holding it enough to not lose yourself and being distracted. All right. Now we are going to enter a little journey. And for this, I will ask you to ask a question, to choose a question. Maybe you already have a question that matches the criteria that I suggested, or I will suggest 3 questions and you can choose from them. All right. Question number 1. What message do you have for me today? Very beautiful question. A very beautiful one to start with, as the wisdom of the bees is endless. Second question, much more practical type question. How does it feel to live in a tree? So this is more like if you want to have a somatic experience, if you want to understand about the relationship between honeybees and a tree, you can choose this question. How does it feel to live in a tree? And the third, more philosophical, vaster, wider, complex, but very interesting. How do you feel towards humans? If you choose this one, you might have tiny bits of beginnings of answers. It's a very vast questions that you can come back to later on or in your morning practice. Just to say, when I downloaded my book, when I channeled my book, very often I was awake very early at that time. I was through my sickness, which was, quite painful. So I would often wake up at 3 a.m, sit down at my altar. On the other side of the window was a beehive. I would connect and then make this connection to the wider Deva intelligence. And I would often be with one theme for several days, sometimes weeks. Like the question of the relationship between honeybees and trees. Took me days to channel what I wrote in my book. So, and there is so much more to channel than, it's endless. It is endless. So take your time, be patient, let it come, and be grateful for what is ready to come. Okay, I hope you are all doing well. And take a deep breath. And find a really comfortable position. One second, someone is good. Find a comfortable position. And let yourself stretch and do any little move that's needed in order to enter this journey. And we'll start with a technique I call the daily practice from Solara and Ra, where you imagine a column of light pouring down from the center of the universe and running through you, clearing any energy that doesn't serve or belong. And feeling all unnecessary thought, all unnecessary energy being released and sent to the big recycling bin of the earth. And another breath. And imagine now a grounding cord coming down from your root chakra, your perineum, traveling down through all the layers of the earth, one by one, and down and down and down, until it reaches the center of the earth, the big iron core crystal of the earth. And feel the connection, and feeling bouncing up, coming back up, and re-entering your body, and nourishing you, all your cells, one by one, with the pranic energy of the earth. Take Take a deep breath. And this energy is continuing to rise up through all your chakras, coming out through the crown, reaching the cosmos again, and bouncing down. And receive the cosmic pranic energy of the universe. And feel your aura, your unique energy signature. Feel it dancing, awakening, and stretching. Let's do a little bit of aura yoga. Feel it stretching to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back, above, and below. And feel now your aura settling in the best size that is for you today. Now we are going to find our coordinates. So for those of you who know a beehive, either you care for a beehive or you know someone who has beehive, bee colonies, I ask you to use this bee colony as a coordinate to access the deva of the bees. So imagine that you're falling down from the sky and landing about 20 meters away from that colony. If you don't know any bee colony, imagine a colony. Maybe she's in a tree, maybe she's in a human-made hive, any colony. You are now 20 meters away from this colony, and you know that her aura, her energy field is wide and has many layers to it. And some colonies have an aura that can be easily 15 or 20 meters wide. If the colony is younger, smaller, her field will be smaller. So start imagining, feeling where could be the outer layer of this colony. And come to just at the edge of the outer layer of the colony, whatever size it is. And you can imagine that you are touching it with your hand and you can see it vibrating. This is her energetic body. And touch it, feel it in your hand. And from this place, find your place of love and reverence. The love for the honeybee, for all what she's doing on earth, for her role, for her wisdom, for her teaching abilities, her healing abilities, her inspiration. Wow, 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 wow. And now we're going to recreate the lumen silta, the bridge of light. So find a place in your body where the bridge is starting. Usually the heart is the easiest. Imagine a bridge of silver light and golden light rising out of your heart and reaching the heart of this beehive. And you might feel the moment of connection. It gives me like a moment of tingling in my body when I feel the click, the connection. When the bridge is created, the lumen silta, this bridge is bidirectional, all right? So the information can go in both directions at the same time. So you are going to send the request for a blessing and ask her, I would like to communicate with you today. Do you give me your blessing? And if this is a yes, you will find a sense of opening. Your yes might take different forms depending on your language. Have a sense of your yes or your no. Feel the yes, feel the opening. Feel the space creating in your heart. And feel the gratitude. Give thanks to the bees for opening this connection, for being willing to share their wisdom. And slowly come closer to the beehive, to the bee colony. Come closer, gently, knowing that you are now entering a sacred temple. There are many layers to a colony aura. So just imagine, click, I'm passing the first layer. Click, I'm passing the second. And continue like this until you find yourself very near to the entrance of the colony. Take your time. Sometimes you need to slow down, being sure that you enter every layer in awe and respect. And now you find yourself sitting next to the entrance. And for this journey, I'm going to ask you to imagine that you are shrinking in size. So shrinking to the size of a bee. And find yourself at the entrance. Maybe there's a landing board where you can be. And it's a little you, the size of a bee. Now all the other bees are the same size of you. And at the entrance of the hive, there are many guardians. So greet the guardians, the guards, and it is the moment to ask your question again. So what was your question? And speak it inside, internally, or out loud. And once your question is set, ask the guardians to enter the beehive and let's go in. Inside, the nest is buzzing. The smells are intense. And you are like a bee like the others, so the touch is also there. You feel the contact on your skin. Take some time to take a deep breath. You feel the mixture of beeswax, honey, nectar, propolis, pollen, and even royal jelly and bee venom. All these smells mixed together in a melting pot. And beyond, we have all the pheromones, including the royal pheromone. And fill up your lungs with it. And fill your ears with the sound, all the layers of this orchestra. All the layers of the buzzing bees, the male, females. The queen. Do you have a sense where is the queen? She is an enormous concentration of energy. Her light field is vast, and maybe you want to come closer. Again, the queen bee is like a coordinate within the hive. It's a place where you can bring your question. So imagine yourself in front of the queen bee, and she might show herself in different forms. And in this place of reverence, love, humility, ask your question with all your faith, with all your love, all your openness. And let the answer enter your system. Drink it, see it, hear it. Keep breathing deeply. And no forcing. Remember the balance intention. If there is no message right away, trust that it will come later. And if there is a clear answer now, receiving with all the reverence and gratitude. And know that you can repeat this exercise at any time. You can use the same journey to connect. Take a deep breath. And you might need to stretch a little bit. If there are still answers, take your time. And we will slowly, gently all gather to complete this journey. Giving thanks, giving love. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. Coming fully into the room. I hope you enjoy your journey. Great to see you. Beautiful. Beautiful.